the jewelry, living with a piercing, and what happens when you abandon it. Coming up next. So you might want to stick around. For those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Let's start out with jewelry. Are you going to have access to jewelry? Good jewelry. Jewelry that's going to work for you. Yes, everybody has a Walmart in their backyard, but no, you don't want to buy the jewelry that you're going to put in this piercing there. Chances are it's not biocompatible, it's not well constructed, it is not going to have a good finish. It's going to have ends, if it's threaded, that are external and fall off all the time. Plus, that threading is going to damage the piercing, more than likely, when you change it. Are you going to have access to good jewelry? Even if you do not live in the city where the piercing was initially done, that piercer's shop or studio is, they should be able to give you access to online sites and make suggestions or approve purchases in the future. Talk to them at the time of the piercing about. This is the thing that most people seem to have a problem with. The jewelry generally needs to stay in at all times. Does not matter how long you've had it, you need to leave something in it. Number 3, allergies. If you're allergic to any type of materials, you need to get third-party certified biocompatible materials. Titanium is your best bet in most cases, or 14 karat gold solid or above, like up to 18 karat, or glass jewelry. Everything else you could have an allergic reaction to or other problem relating to that jewelry. Can you isolate this jewelry? Does it have giant things sticking off of it? Then probably not. Simple jewelry is easier to isolate. You want to consider that when you're picking out jewelry, even after the piercing is healed, is how much of a profile that jewelry has and how much it's going to get knocked around. Storing the jewelry. You need to have separate individual Ziploc bags to store your jewelry in. Don't put them in a tackle box with 8 or 9 other pieces per area. You need to isolate the jewelry. Jewelry coming in contact with other jewelry is going to cause damage to the finish. The other thing is it needs to be a clean area that's not going to be contaminated easily. For example, do not leave it on the back of the toilet or the top of the toilet in the bathroom for 3 weeks and then put it back in your tongue piercing. Ick. Last one is retainers. I generally suggest glass. Glass is your best option for most piercings. It's not quite as secure as other jewelry, but it doesn't react in most situations with surgery because it's non-conductive. It also isn't going to show up or be as readily visible in x-rays, MRIs, etc. So it's the best option if you have a medical situation. As far as hiding the jewelry, glass can work pretty well, but the reality is if they want to find the piercing, they're going to find it. Before I move on to living with the piercing, if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it because we like it when you like it. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time we post something. If you have a comment, you have something to say about this or you'd like to add to it, please leave a comment. I generally answer them if I have time. If you like merch, check out our merch store. The link is in the description. Let's move on to living with the piercing. First thing with that is you cannot remove the jewelry. The jewelry needs to stay in at all times. Removing every time you take that jewelry out and leave it out for an extended period of time, you are risking the piercing closing. The newer the piercing is, the faster that's going to happen. The thinner the jewelry is, the faster that's going to happen. It's always best to guarantee that you can keep that jewelry, that you leave something in it. Now, having this piercing may change how you sleep. You may not be able to sleep on that side comfortably anymore, and if you do sleep on that side, you may wake up with it being rather sore. Same thing with other piercings, non-ear piercings. Piercings like to be isolated and left alone. It is hard metal through soft tissue, your skin, and trauma to that piercing, regardless how long you've had it, can cause some issues and make it grumpy and sore for a couple days. It's best to try to isolate piercings and leave them alone, and that includes playing with them. Don't play with them. Prejudice. If you watch the other videos or you've watched all the video, you're going to encounter people, especially visible piercings, that just have set their mind that everyone that has that piercing is one way or another, and they dislike it. You should be prepared to deal with that. It's just part of having a piercing. I will tell you that I generally ignore them unless they ask a question, and I'm happy to tell them what they want to know. But for the most part, I don't even notice anymore. Now, a lot of people would say, well, you're not heavily bona fide, DaVo. Well, here's the deal. I started getting piercings that are visible during my punk rock days back in the 80s. So I've been dealing with this for a long time. The only time I really notice it is when people that are with me make comments about other people. So just leave them alone. They'll eventually die off, and then we'll never have to deal with them again. Now, piercing, especially oral piercings, it may affect diet and speech long term. That may not change. The next one, it may affect clothing choices. It may affect whether or not you can wear pants up to your armpits if you have a navel piercing. It may affect headgear, helmets, etc., earmuffs. So you should always consider, I guess, headbands too, like for an eyebrow piercing. So you should always consider that beforehand. It will change your wardrobe a little bit if it's in an area that comes in contact with clothing. And the last one may affect employment. Now, this one, a lot of people say, well, then I'll just take it out. The scarring will still be there. People will still know that you have it. You should really always consider when getting a visible piercing whether or not it's going to affect your employment currently or in the future. Now, what happens when you abandon the piercing? If the piercing is showing any signs of infection, I highly advise going to see your piercer or a medical professional and have them take a look at it before you remove the jewelry. The main reason for this is how your body heals infections and what happens when you take jewelry out of a piercing. Your body heals infections by pushing infected tissue and fluids out through the wound while replacing with healthy tissue below. It basically isolates it and pushes it out. If you remove the jewelry, usually during the healing process, the two holes will close first. That could possibly trap that infected tissue and fluids inside there, creating an abscess or a cyst, which will very painfully and slowly, your body will try to push it to the surface and will probably require medical attention. If you leave the jewelry in, it allows that kind of drainage point for the infection, makes it a little bit more treatable. Now, if the piercing is healed or in the healing process and looks completely healthy, removing the jewelry will not be a problem. If it's healing, you want to keep an eye on it. Treat it like you would just any type of puncture wound or cut. Keep an eye on it. Just make sure that if there's any signs of infection, that you seek medical attention. Now, when piercings close, healed piercings, they will tend to squeeze together at the center of the piercing and then fill in tissue outward. For that reason, a lot of times they will appear to be open, especially with larger gauge piercings. You may look at it and it looks wide open, but the reality is it's completely shut in the center. So that will slowly fade over time, but it may take a number of years for it to get to the point where you just see an indentation or a little bit of scarring at the top. Lastly, let's talk about sebums, just basically because it tends to show up in piercings and abandoned piercings. What it is a waxy oil that your body produces, has a consistency of cream cheese, smells like dirt, like an unclean navel, basically. Not a nice smell. What it is it's a waxy oil that your body produces to lubricate hair follicles, moisturize your skin, and make you watertight. With piercings and on scar tissue, it seems to produce more. And because the piercing is like a tunnel, it'll tend to collect more inside there. So when you squeeze it, all this nasty stuff comes out, or you occasionally notice it kind of seeping out of there. It's completely normal and not something you should worry about. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Thank you for watching. Check out one of these other videos.